Some albums didn't get a fair shot. They came out, nobody noticed, the charts ignored them. But the music was something else. These records had everything. The riffs, the raw emotion, the songs that should have changed everything. So why did they disappear? Maybe the timing was wrong. Maybe the world wasn't ready. Or maybe the ones we called failures were actually the best of the decade. These are the albums history got wrong. And it's time to set the record straight. Number 10, Tokyo Blade Night of the Blade. Close your eyes for a second. Picture a small, packed venue somewhere in England. Cigarette smoke hanging in the air. Kids in leather jackets pressed against a barrier. The kind of place where the walls sweat and the PA crackles just a little, that's exactly where this album lives. That's the room it was built for. Night of the Blade came out in 1984 on Power Station Records in the UK. The band was right in the thick of the new wave of British heavy metal, a movement that was already starting to get shoved aside by the time this record dropped. Producer Pete Hinton helped shape a sound that was tight, melodic, and driven by twin guitar work that had no right to be that clean on the budget they were working with. The title track itself is a pure piece of British metal craftsmanship about loyalty, danger, and the kind of brotherhood you only find in the trenches, or on tour in a beaten-up van. The album barely registered on any official charts. Distribution was thin. Outside of the underground metal scene in the UK and small pockets of Europe, almost nobody heard it. But here's the thing, the fans who did find it held on to it like it was sacred. There's a story that gets passed around in collector circles. The original pressing run was so small that within a few years, copies were changing hands at record fairs for 10 times the original price. Fans in Japan, and that's not a coincidence given the band's name, were importing it before most of England even knew it existed. The reason it faded is pretty simple and pretty painful. The label had limited reach. The NWOBHM wave was cresting, and major labels were already looking toward glossier American acts. Tokyo Blade got caught in the current too late for the wave's peak, too early for the nostalgia cycle that would eventually save them. But this album, it's proof that some of the most honest metal ever made was recorded in cold rehearsal rooms by people who had nothing to sell except the truth. If you've never heard this one, you owe it to yourself to find it tonight. Number 9, Steeler. Before Yngwie Malmsteen became a household name among guitar obsessives, before the shred revolution fully exploded, there was this record. And if you were a guitar player in 1983 who somehow got your hands on it, your jaw hit the floor and stayed there. The self-titled debut from Steeler came out in 1983 on Shrapnel Records, a small but significant indie label run by Mike Varney that had a genuine eye for guitar talent. The lineup on this record was absurd for an unsigned, barely known band. You had Ron Keel on vocals, charismatic, big voice, born for the stage. And then you had this young Swedish kid on guitar who played like he'd made a deal with someone. That kid was Yngwie Malmsteen. This was one of his first American recordings, and even in 1983, You could hear that something was completely different about how he approached the instrument. The songs were built around a hard rock framework, themes of power, speed, ambition, the hunger of young men who wanted everything the industry promised. But what made the album special was the tension between Keel's melodic sensibility and Yngwie's refusal to be contained. You can actually hear two musical philosophies pulling against each other across these tracks, and somehow that tension makes it electric. Here's the fun fact that most people don't know. Yngwie was only in Steeler for a matter of months before he was gone, first to Alcatraz, then very quickly to his own solo career. So this album is essentially a snapshot of a moment that could never be repeated. A time capsule of a lineup that existed for barely a blink. Steeler got lost because Shrapnel didn't have the major label muscle to push it into mainstream rotation. Radio had no interest. The album existed in the world of mail-order catalogs and guitar magazine reviews, respected, admired, but invisible to the wider public. Decades later, guitar historians talk about this record with reverence, and they should.
Hey, Rocklore community. Before we continue, let's have a real talk for a second, bro. You know, this isn't just a channel to us. And I hope it's not just a place you come to watch a video and then forget about it. This is a community. It's a place where we get to dig up the secrets of rock and roll, share our favorite riffs, and celebrate the artists who maybe didn't get the love they deserved. Right now, only about 1% of our viewers are subscribed. We can change that together and grow this community. All you have to do is hit that subscribe button with the notification bell on. When you do, you're not just helping a channel grow, you're becoming a member of the Rocklore family. You're signaling to us and to YouTube that these stories matter, that this music is worth preserving, and that this community is a place you want to be. Subscribing is your way of making sure you're always in the loop. It means you'll be the first to know when we unearth a forgotten legend, drop a new countdown, or dive into a piece of rock history you've never heard before. So if you're a true fan of the lore, if you get that same feeling of discovery that I do, then come join us. It takes 1 second to be a part of something bigger.
Every story you see here takes hours of digging, piecing together history, and bringing forgotten moments back to life. If you'd like to support that work, you can become a channel member. It's just the cost of a cup of coffee, but it helps us keep these stories alive, and for that, we're grateful. Number 8. Warrior Fighting for the Earth. Eye to eye, wielding the... This one has weight to it. Real weight. Not just musically, though. The music is heavy enough, but thematically. When you listen to Fighting for the Earth, you're hearing a band that was angry about something real. Environmental destruction. Corporate greed. The mighty almost die. The slow poisoning of the world. In 1985, when most hard rock was about girls and good times, Warrior was writing music about the planet dying. Released in 1985 through MCA Records, produced by Tom Werman, who had already worked with Cheap Trick and Mötley Crüe, so the man knew exactly how to make a rock record hit hard. Fighting for the Earth had real production muscle behind it. The guitars were thick, the vocals were enormous. The lyrics were passionate without being preachy. This was a band with something to say, and they had the chops to say it loud. And yet, it barely moved. Critics were lukewarm. Radio wasn't interested in a concept that felt more political than fun. The album slipped out and slipped away. But here's something that makes you shake your head a little. The themes on this record, the urgency, the warning, the call to wake up feel more relevant today than they did in 1985. Some music is ahead of its time in style. This one was ahead of its time in message. Warrior broke up not long after the album's release. Internal frustrations, label disappointment, the usual story. But the music survived. And if you find yourself caring about what rock actually said during this era, not just how it sounded, then Fighting for the Earth deserves a full listen from you. Start to finish. No skipping. Number 7. Wild Horses Stand Your Ground.
When you're alone and things get rough.
There's a version of the 1980s rock story where the classic rock veterans of the 70s just quietly faded out. Retired gracefully, passed the torch. Wild Horses tells a very different story.
When just a phone call's not enough.
This was a band built from the ruins of one era, trying to survive in another, and the music they made in the process is genuinely extraordinary.
You need to be so strong and tough.
Stand Your Ground came out in 1981. The band featured Brian Robertson, formerly of Thin Lizzy, one of the most gifted rock guitarists Britain ever produced. The album was put out on EMI, recorded with a hard rock sound that owed a clear debt to the late 70s, but pushed harder, faster, and with a rawness that suited the new decade. The songs dealt with survival, personal, professional, emotional.
Problems get you down.
Robertson was a man who'd been through the music industry machine and had the scars to show for it, and you can hear every one of them in the guitar work here. Commercially, it went nowhere.
Friends don't stick around.
The timing was brutal. The NWOBHM was dominating the UK underground, and Wild Horses didn't fit neatly into that box. They were too rooted in the classic rock tradition to get the young metal crowd, and too hard-edged for the AOR stations that were rising in popularity.
Afraid to stand your ground.
The fun detail here is that Robertson's guitar playing on this record is some of the most technically and emotionally rich work of his entire career, and almost nobody heard it. Musicians who knew. If you mentioned Wild Horses to the right guitarist at the right pub in the early 80s, you'd have a friend for life.
If your frustration makes you lie.
If you love Thin Lizzy, and if you're watching this, the odds are good that you do, then Stand Your Ground is required listening. It fills a gap in rock history you probably didn't even know was there.
And some decisions make you.
If you're enjoying this so far, go ahead and smash that like button. It genuinely helps this kind of deep dive content reach more people who care about real rock history. Now let's keep going. Number 6. Angel Witch Screamin' and Bleedin'. You know Angel Witch's debut from 1980. Everybody in the NWOBHM world knows that debut. But by 1985, things had changed. The scene had moved on. The labels were chasing different money, and Angel Witch, a band that should have been headlining arenas, were fighting just to stay together. Screamin' Bleedin' was released in 1985 through Killerwatt Records. Kevin Hayborn, the guitarist and creative heart of Angel Witch, was essentially carrying the band on his back by this point. The album was darker than the debut, more complex, with a heaviness that felt almost ahead of its time. The production was raw, not by choice, but by budget, and somehow that rawness made it feel more urgent, more desperate, more real. The lyrics dug deep into occult imagery and personal darkness in a way that felt genuinely unsettling rather than theatrical. This wasn't pantomime devil stuff. This had texture to it. The album sold almost nothing. The band's lineup was unstable. The label had no real infrastructure. And the heavy metal mainstream had already moved to a more polished, American sound that had little room for the gritty British original. But here's the fan fact that matters. In the underground, in the tape trading networks, the metal fanzines, the specialist record shops in cities like Birmingham and Sheffield Screamin' and Bleedin' built a slow, stubborn reputation. People who found it, kept it. People who heard it once, looked for it. That kind of quiet word of mouth is how a lost album becomes a cult classic. Kevin Hayborn never got the recognition he deserved in his time. But if you look at the bands who cite Angel Witch as an influence, the list is long and impressive. The roots run deep, even when the tree itself went mostly unseen. Number 5. Fastway Trick or Treat soundtrack. Okay, this is the one I need you to lean in for, because this isn't just a great forgotten album. This one has a story attached to it that touched a genuine nerve in 1980s. America and the controversy around it is something rock history tends to gloss over. But first, the music, because the music deserves that respect first. Fastway was formed by Fast Eddie Clarke, formerly of Motorhead, and Pete Way from UFO. When they came together in the early 80s, expectations were sky high. Their first couple of albums showed a band with serious hard rock pedigree, but by 1986, Fastway agreed to provide the soundtrack for a low-budget horror film called Trick or Treat, a movie about a teenage metalhead who discovers that his dead rock idol has hidden messages in his final album. The music they recorded for that film is genuinely brilliant. Hard-driving, melodic, hook-heavy hard rock with a dark edge that matched the horror theme without ever losing its rock identity. Dave King's vocals are powerful. Clarke's guitar work is precise and mean. Songs like Trick or Treat and After Midnight are as strong as anything the band ever recorded. The album was released on CBS Epic in 1986, and this is where the story gets complicated. I promised you a controversy segment, and this is the moment. You may remember hearing, back in the mid to late 1980s, about the moral panic surrounding heavy metal and so-called backward masking. The idea that rock records contained hidden satanic messages when played in reverse. Senate hearings were held. Parental advisory stickers were born. And films like Trick or Treat landed right in the middle of all of this. Some people said the film was dangerous. Some religious groups campaigned against it. There are different versions of how hard the pressure was pushed. But what's documented is that the controversy around the film's subject matter, a dead rock star communicating through recorded music, made radio incredibly reluctant to touch the soundtrack. Some stations in more conservative markets reportedly refused to play it at all. In interviews from that period, band members expressed frustration that the controversy was being used as a blunt instrument against music that was, at its core, just a very good hard rock record. The film itself was more comedic than genuinely dark. It actually featured Ozzy Osbourne in a cameo as a televangelist, which tells you something about the tone. But the damage was done. The association with the controversy meant the album never got a fair hearing in the mainstream market. It didn't chart. It didn't get tour support that matched its quality. The band, already under pressure, continued to struggle. What's remarkable is how the cult audience found it anyway. Horror fans found the film. Metal fans followed the film to the record. And over time, the Trick or Treat soundtrack became one of those essential items for anyone serious about mid-80s melodic hard rock. Not because of the controversy, because of the songs. That's the thing about industry politics and moral panic. They can slow a great record down, they can bury it for years. But if the music is real enough, it finds its people eventually. That's why this record isn't just music, it's history. A document of a moment when rock was being put on trial and the music still won, just quietly and decades late. Number 4. Girlschool Play Dirty. Let me be honest with you about something. Girlschool never got a fair deal from the music press. From almost the moment they appeared, people were more interested in talking about the fact that they existed than in actually listening to what they were playing. And what they were playing was heavy, mean, technically sharp hard rock that could stand toe-to-toe with any of their male contemporaries. Play Dirty came out in 1983 on Bronze Records, produced by Nigel Gray, who had previously worked with The Police, which tells you the man understood how to get a sound that was clean but had teeth. And Play Dirty has teeth. The guitars crunch. The rhythm section is locked in tight. The vocals have attitude and real emotional range. Kelly Johnson's guitar work in particular, underrated then, still underrated now, is the kind of playing that makes other guitarists stop and pay attention. The album themes ran across the usual rock territory: independence, desire, defiance, but delivered with a directness and lack of pretension that felt genuinely refreshing against the overly polished sound-dominating rock in 1983. It didn't chart well. The music press was already moving on from the NWOBHM, chasing synth pop and the new romantics. A hard rock record from 4 women didn't fit any of the new narratives being written. Here's what I want you to sit with, though. Decades later, when younger bands started talking about the female-fronted rock acts who made it possible for them to exist, Girlschool's name kept coming up. Not as a novelty, not as a footnote, as a genuine influence, as a band that was simply better than most of what surrounded them. Play Dirty deserved to be a hit. It wasn't. But its reputation has grown steadily ever since. And for anyone who loves muscular, uncompromising hard rock, it's essential. We're halfway through this countdown. Which song or album has hit you hardest so far? Drop it in the comments below. I genuinely want to know what you're connecting with. Number 3. Shy, Excess, All Areas. Britain produced some of the best melodic rock of the 1980s. It also managed to ignore most of it. Shy were from Birmingham. They had been grinding through the circuit since the early part of the decade, building a following the hard way, touring, recording independently, earning every single fan one show at a time. By the time XS All Areas came out in 1987 on RCA Records, they had a full, polished, deeply impressive sound that should have made them serious contenders. The album was produced with a sheen that could compete with anything coming out of Los Angeles at the time. Tony Mills' vocals were exceptional, a genuinely world-class voice that could do power and vulnerability in the same breath. The songwriting was melodic without being soft, commercial without being hollow. There are moments on this record, particularly the track When You're Young and in Love and Break Down the Walls, where Shy sound like a band absolutely ready for the biggest stages in the world. They got a small taste of chart action in the UK. Nothing that changed their lives. Radio played a handful of tracks in limited rotation. The label push wasn't strong enough to break them through to the mainstream. And here's the bitter truth. In America, where melodic rock was absolutely exploding in 1987, where AOR radio had real power, where a band like this could have had a genuine hit, XS All Areas was barely distributed. The American market, which could have been a lifeline, was essentially closed to them through no fault of their own. Label politics, geography, the particular cruelty of how the music industry decided which acts got a shot at the big time. If you dropped this record in front of someone and told them it was a major American rock act from 1987, they would believe you without question. That's how good it is. And that gap between quality and commercial reality is one of the saddest stories in 1980s rock. Find this album. That's all I'm asking. Just find it. Number 2. Tygers of Tang the Cage. The Tygers of Tang are a band whose story in the early 1980s is almost painful to tell, because you can see exactly where everything went wrong, and you know exactly what was lost. They came up right in the heart of the new wave of British heavy metal. Their early work, Wildcat, Spellbound, showed a band with real potential. Raw energy, strong riffs, the kind of youthful intensity that made the NWOBHM so exciting, and then came the revolving door. By the time The Cage was recorded and released in 1982 on MCA Records, the lineup had changed significantly. John Sykes, yes, that John Sykes, the man who would later co-write the backbone of Whitesnake's massive 1987 album, had come in as guitarist. And what he brought to this record is extraordinary. His guitar playing on The Cage is precise, powerful, and melodically gifted in a way that lifts every single track. The album has a harder, more polished sound than the earlier Tygers records. Producer Chris Tangarides, who had a gift for making guitars sound enormous, helped create a record that should have been a step up in every sense, and musically, it was. But Sykes left the band not long after. The momentum dissolved. MCA's backing shifted. And The Cage ended up as one of those pivotal records that sits in the gap between what a band was and what they could have become. The fun fact that makes this even more interesting, the guitar work Sykes refined on this album clearly fed directly into the approach he brought to Whitesnake. You can hear the DNA. Which means if you love Here I Go Again or Still of the Night, you owe something to The Cage even if you've never heard it. This album represents a crossroads in rock history, A moment where two paths diverged, one became famous, one got forgotten. But the forgotten one is still here, still brilliant, still waiting for you.
Hey, rock lore community. Before we continue, let's have a real talk for a second, bro. You know, this isn't just a channel to us. And I hope it's not just a place you come to watch a video and then forget about it. This is a community. It's a place where we get to dig up the secrets of rock and roll, share our favorite riffs, and celebrate the artists who maybe didn't get the love they deserved. Right now, only about 1% of our viewers are subscribed. We can change that together and grow this community. All you have to do is hit that subscribe button with the notification bell on. When you do, you're not just helping a channel grow, you're becoming a member of the Rock Lore family. You're signaling to us and to YouTube that these stories matter, that this music is worth preserving, and that this community is a place you want to be. Subscribing is your way of making sure you're always in the loop. It means you'll be the first to know when we unearth a forgotten legend, drop a new countdown, or dive into a piece of rock history you've never heard before. So if you're a true fan of the lore, if you get that same feeling of discovery that I do, then come join us. It takes 1 second to be a part of something bigger.
Every story you see here takes hours of digging, piecing together history and bringing forgotten moments back to life. If you'd like to support that work, you can become a channel member. It's just the cost of a cup of coffee, but it helps us keep these stories alive, and for that, we're grateful. Number 1. Stampede Hurricane Town. This is the one that keeps me up at night a little. Because when you find an album this good, this perfectly constructed, this full of personality and passion and genuine craft, and you realize almost nobody knows it exists, you feel something that's hard to name. It's not quite anger, it's not quite sadness, it's somewhere in between. Stampede came from the same NWOBHM world as so many of the acts on this list. But Hurricane Town, released in 1983 on Polydor Records, took the blueprint and elevated it. This wasn't a raw demo-quality record scrapped together on a thin budget. This was a fully realized album, produced with care, layered with melodic intelligence, and anchored by the vocal performance of Reuben Archer, one of the most underappreciated voices in all of British rock. Archer had a quality that's genuinely rare. He could sing with grit and power, but he could also hold a note with real tenderness. The combination gave Hurricane Town an emotional range that the harder-edged NWOBHM acts often lacked. Songs about love, about restlessness, about the feeling of being somewhere between who you were and who you wanted to be, not grand philosophical statements. Just honest human feelings put to music that swings and crunches and soars in equal measure. Polydor, for reasons that still frustrate people who love this record, failed to properly support the campaign. The promotional budget was thin, the touring was limited, and in 1983, the British rock market was already fracturing, some of it going toward the harder American metal sound, some going toward the glossy pop crossover that would eventually eat everything. Hurricane Town fell through every crack, but the recordings survived, and collectors found them, and slowly, very slowly, the reputation of this album has built. Bootlegs circulated in tape trading networks through the 80s and into the 90s. Digital file sharing gave it a second life. And now, if you move in the right rock circles, this album is spoken of with a kind of reverence that the band never got to experience at the height of their career. Reuben Archer continued to work in music. The songs continued to exist. And Hurricane Town stands today as a reminder that the charts were never a reliable measure of quality. That some of the best music ever made went unheard not because it wasn't worthy, but because the system it moved through was imperfect, political, and frankly sometimes just wrong.